In addition to this, there is a big disconnect. 79% of managers said that the meetings they initiated were extremely or very positive. They love their meetings. Why? Well, they're doing most of the talking. They feel like they're getting their stuff done. They're on stage and they feel like they're doing great. But 56% said the same about meetings they attend initiated by others. They love their own meetings, but they don't like attending other people's meetings so much because those meetings are wasteful and boring and everything else. But their meetings are great. There's a disconnect there. But are all of these bad meetings really their fault? 75% of leaders have received no formal training on how to run an effective meeting. 3/4 of us have never had anyone sit down and say, here's actually how you do it. Have you? If you have been taught that, you're pretty rare. You're in 25% of people, but the great majority of us have never been trained. So it's not really your fault if you've never been told how to do it properly. A long time ago, and I mean a long time ago, I was an employee, and I hated it when it was meeting time because we didn't have a regular meeting schedule at one of the companies that I worked at. So what would happen is there would be a problem, and then the boss would say, everybody in the boardroom, we're gonna have a meeting. And you didn't know how long that meeting would go. It might be an hour, it might be an hour and a half, it might be 2 hours, nobody knew. And what I found is that they were intensely boring. And they were boring for me because a lot of the time, the meeting had nothing to do with me. I couldn't have any effect on it. It had no bearing on the department that I worked in, so they were really boring. I found that they were wasteful. We didn't have a good agenda. There wasn't a set end time. Sometimes there wasn't a set start time, so you wait for stragglers and it just took so much time. And at the end of the day, they felt ineffective because when the meeting was over, there was nobody saying, okay, here's what we're doing now, here's what we're changing, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. So it seemed ineffective. Now, maybe you can relate to meetings like that. If you run meetings like that, there's a few consequences. The first one is inefficiency. So think of the people who have to get to the meeting. If it's in person, some have to commute and some have to physically get there. But imagine the cost of what it takes to put 10 people in a room for an hour or 2 hours, add up their salary, then add up the opportunity cost of what they should be doing during that time. The second cost is lethargy. The more boredom, the less enthusiasm. The less enthusiasm, the less engagement, the less engagement, the less productivity. So boring people is not a great way to go. It also leads to frustration. If you work in an office setting, you may identify with this, where you go home at the end of the day and you've got so much to do and you feel like, but I got nothing done. All I did was sit in meetings all day. And all of this can lead to cynicism, a pessimism, thinking like, this is pointless. Why do we do this all the time? So it's really important that we figure out how to get meetings right. So up to now, we've been talking mostly about people who have too many meetings, but then there are the frontline workers, and many frontline workers rarely attend a meeting of any kind. Some of us are meetinged out, we have too many meetings, and some of us feel like, man, I would love to know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on in the larger business, and they feel disconnected, undirected, and sometimes forgotten. Sometimes I think of it like a picture of a boat. And you have the person in the wheelhouse steering the boat. Well, they see everything. They see the destination. They see the storms that are coming. They're in control of steering the boat. But then there are the people who work below decks and they have no clue what's going on. They just feel that the ship is tossing and turning. They don't know why. They don't know what the destination is. And they have very different experiences. And they also have different levels of work satisfaction. People who are steering the ship usually enjoy it a lot more than people who are working below decks and have no idea where they're going. So the frontline workers sometimes need more meetings and more connection and more communication.